How are we doing there, Cassiana? Okay, it looks like we're live on YouTube, so I will go ahead and get us started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody at GitLab. This is the 12.3 retrospective. For those new to this format, we talk about what went well this month. We talk also about what went wrong this month, and we talk about how we can improve. And then, of course, our favorite section about action items or improvements for the next release. So lots of topics to talk about, really good discussion. I will cover the first two sections in detail and then hand it over for the third section for individuals to basically comment about things that they feel we should improve on. Some of those will be tracked at the high level and some of those will be tracked by teams for their individual retrospectives. First, we'll go over the action items from the last time. Important to note that we had 4 high-level items to track. 2 of those items was one, tooling to indicate when an RMR has been deployed. Thanks to Jörg and the delivery team for adding that. It's a really cool feature. It really helps us understand what's in production and not in production. So really appreciate that effort. Also, update to the handbook around communication and features flags. Thanks to Darva Satcher for that. Really appreciate you getting that into the handbook. And then community contributions. Mecca, I'm going to go ahead and let you give that update for that one, since we're about halfway through, it sounds like.
Sure. We finished 2 out of 4. We've been pulled in to help up with higher priority tasks with the single repo migration. I would propose that this would be the follow-up to finish it in the 12.4 improvement items.
Cool. Yeah. Then we'll carry it over to 12.4 and do that. Thanks for the update. Thomas, you have the one for monitoring?
Yes, within Secure, one of the things that was noted during 12.2 is that we need to have better monitoring of our secure features and how available they are, both within Grafana and Sentry. Being transparent, we completely lost sight of this during 12.3 and have not taken any action upon it. This is an epic that we're going to be at. We're going to be working with the team to add actionable items, and we'll be scheduling these and prioritizing these with our colleagues within product management, and that's going to be a priority for us during this coming release.
Okay, cool. Do you want us to ask back again at the 12.4 retro?
Yes, please.
Okay, we will do that. Mm-hmm. Cool. This is the accelerated portion of this event. We always talk about what went well, what went wrong. I go at a rapid pace kind of quickly through it. Just understand that we'll spend a little bit more time on how we can improve, because that's where we like to focus. That's not to say that we're not doing good things. We're doing lots of good things in lots of different areas. It's just how we focus our time related to this. So in what went well this month, at a high level, good things around collaboration, in particular calling out the front end and back end independent delivery by one of the teams in there associated with it. That's under Jacques' commentary around that, seeing that as a good thing. Next also was both Craig and Stephen mentioned about doing either milestone or mini retros within their parts, and that was an extremely popular capability that they've added to their teams, and it's exciting to hear that we're even going to a deeper continuous improvement from that perspective. Also want to call out the use of feature flags, demos, and dogfooding between the various teams, Secure, Clements, and Monitor, and also in Quality. In the results section, really want to point out Clement's team did 100% of the deliverables this month, which is an impressive feat given previous history around that. So congratulations, Clement and the monitoring team for doing that. Really appreciate that hard work there. And also that we've got our 3 environments set up. So if you're looking for a place to test out either 10K, 25K, or 50K reference architectures, we've basically got those environments set up and ready and rolling, and that's really good to hear from a results perspective. And then we oftentimes talk about how we have RCAs around things that get to production, but our QA smoke test caught serious regression prior to that. We need to probably figure out how we best track that, Mac, because I think that's one of the things that we really need to be talking about, is how many things we catch before we get to production, not just talking about the things that do get to production and how to basically address those. In the planning section, it sounds like the plan team has started to use issues to track their actual planning, and that's helped with communication and understanding of what's going on. And then the new process that Geo had been laying out over the last couple of releases, I believe, has been working fairly well and been well received by the team. Thanks to the Geo team for continuing to innovate in that area. And in the efficiency section, the Create team spent time both working on speeding up of tests and also performance improvements, which has led to better efficiencies within that team. So it's exciting to hear that those aspects are happening. I'll have to figure out how to, I'll have to work with the Create managers to see if there's any way we can quantify that, because it's always an interesting topic in and of itself from that perspective. Moving on to the what went wrong, again, moving very fast because we only have 25 minutes to cover about 300 people's time, just moving, and a little bit of focus here. In the process section, in particular, the DB maintainers challenges, this has been recognized as a problem up to this point, and I'm glad to see that we're proactively working on this. It's good that we're getting feedback around that because it means that we're not done yet. We have currently 8 folks in training and looking to convert an additional maintainer in that area, in the DB maintainers. So encouraged and welcome the feedback as we continue to try to build up on that area from that perspective. Also, general theme that I saw in here was around code ownership standards and reviewers. That's an area that I think we'll want to be thinking about as we move into the improvement section, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Under the releases section, there's a theme of also understanding process and expectations. Basically, in a number of cases, from a high level, it looks like we had either misunderstandings of kind of different processes that we use in different places, and or expectations when we got to certain states related to that. For results, there seems to be a recognition that throughput's off August. We do have some explanation around that. That was due to vacations as a whole. I saw that we were up roughly 50% in vacation time for the month of August. September, we now are at a single code base, and because of that, that's going to also affect our metrics. It doesn't necessarily affect productivity, because it actually, you could argue, it increases productivity because we're not spending time duplicating MRs. But if MRs are the metric you use to measure productivity, we expect to see some decline associated with that. Moving on from there, planning. This is a big area where we got lots of feedback around different aspects of it. It sounds like a general theme there is some overcommitment, where teams need to think about how they're performing their planning and how best to make sure they're hitting from that perspective. The other one was shifting priorities. Some teams have moved to weekly planning, which has kind of helped with that aspect of it. Those teams may want to consider that as an option potentially, as if the priorities are changing that rapidly associated with it. And then the last section I will call out is the efficiency section, where we didn't hit our app rate target associated with our testing, or review app success rate, I should say. Basically, we were below the 90% target. So that'll be something that we'll want to potentially get back up to associated with that. Now moving to the efficiency section, I successfully completed 3 sections in under 10 minutes, which gives us plenty of time for group conversation around how things we can improve. And this is where we pull down a little bit in gear and give teams time, opportunity to talk about their various aspects. John Hope, are you on the call?
Yep. We had a bit of an issue this milestone, just with feature flags in particular. I think the documentation is pretty clear. So I think what we had was a bit of an edge case, but we've opened an issue to talk about what happens when work goes out under a feature flag and the feature flag is switched off again because of regressions before the release goes out on the 22nd. So for all the self-hosted people, the problem we had with it was that we closed off the issue. So from the engineer's point of view, it was done, but that's not necessarily great for visibility for PMs. So it may be that that it's an edge case, or we don't actually need to do anything, but it might result in like an update to the handbook, something like that.
Thanks, John. Craig, are you on?
Sorry, I'm here.
Yeah, start bringing stories to your weekly meetings. Do you want any voiceover on that?
Yeah, so we, if we have any blockers, anything is noted in during the week, if anybody's asking for help, we start bringing those to essentially weekly reviews during our team meetings, whereas before our team meetings were mostly status updates, you know, what's going on. We've moved that to more of the GitLab process of, you know, the information is in the document. If you have any questions, we'll talk about it. And we focused our weekly meetings more on what's going on this week. Do we need any clarifications? Do we need any help? And more focused on planning and focusing on work.
Thanks, Craig. On to Darva.
Okay, so we do a really good job on our teams focusing on planning with the front-end engineering manager and the back-end engineering manager and the product manager. And we're always trying to improve the communication processes between our teams. And our UX team is so great that we never noticed that they were never really a part of a lot of the planning until they were out of the office. It became very apparent that they were missing, and we felt that during this release. So now we're going to incorporate them a little bit more. And also sometimes we look at the issues early on, but they weren't looking at them necessarily. So we're going to bring them in early. So hopefully we can alleviate issues and they can give us some more input as well. So that's what we learned.
Christy, do you want to verbalize that? I think it's important.
I agree. Darva. I think that you'll see such an improvement from this. Marcel Van Rimerden, who is product designer, is amazing, and he will add so much to your planning process. So I think you'll see a huge improvement there. But then also what I want to say is this is the way we expect every team to work with their UX partners, in particular their product designers and technical writers, because research kind of floats a little bit more. So if you're not doing this, please try to do this. You'll see major improvements as a result.
And it's important to note that stable counterparts should have the person that's your stable counterpart listed in the product categories, I believe. Is that correct, Christy? Yeah, so if you don't know who it is, that's my Bible for who the right people are to connect. Use that for that perspective. Daniel, are you on the call?
Hello. Yeah, just wanted to call out, we are getting to a point where our internal team members are able to do preliminary reviews. What we're finding is that some of the review processes can take a good amount of time and they're pretty unpredictable right now. So what we were trying to achieve here is to start doing sort of preliminary reviews across the team so that we can sort of iron out some of the early things as newer people join the team. Just wanted to call out that as a way of sharing knowledge in the team as well, to build up an overview and to sort of accelerate that process. There is an issue out for that I can link to here that is around increasing the efficiency around the review process. And we felt like this would be quite helpful for us.
Thanks, thanks, Daniel. Dylan's not on the call, so I'll go ahead and verbalize his area, which is we have room to improve in terms of treating complete MRs as urgent and getting them reviewed merged as soon as possible. Want to make sure I could definitely agree that we need to start thinking in terms of this, of how we potentially look at that part of the cycle. The one aspect is we don't want reviewers to feel pressured. In particular, you know, we've had this discussion around availability over velocity, and we need to make sure that we keep the quality up associated with it. However, that doesn't mean also that we should let MRs languish for you know, weeks because of not having effective focus there. So when we get the time, we should use it wisely, but at the same time, make sure that we're making sure that things aren't getting left behind associated with that. Clement, you have the next comment.
Yeah, so we have some engineers in the team for Monitor that are starting to feel like they're spending a lot of time discussing and defending implementation in merge requests, and people feeling like trade-offs aren't being communicated or just some confusion there. So for us, we're going to start trying to encourage engineers more to reach out to senior engineers or maintainers, or even people that have more wider context of the code base for guidance early on before writing the merge request.
Thanks, Clement. This one particularly jumped out at me. I've set up at the end kind of an audit where we're thinking in terms of, like a lot of feedback here seems to have themes around people understanding the process or different aspects. This is one that kind of jumped out at me as well. So if you think we need to audit this at large to better understand how we make sure that code reviews are efficient and effective, and that we're not effectively redesigning in that phase, except in extreme situations, more than happy to consider it as an option. Everybody can contribute to that issue. Comment, feel free to update if you think that's valuable from that perspective. Cool. I'm going to mispronounce his name. Yao, are you on the call? Doesn't look like it. So I'll verbalize it, which is we should start claiming endpoints and workers in Sentry to be notified about errors earlier. So basically looking to get effectively errors around this from an observability improvement based on that. Order, are you on the call? Doesn't look like it. So come up with better ways to see errors and debug problems people may be having after we release changes into Auto DevOps. Basically, an issue has been created, which we can track associated with that. So better improvements around how we see those problems associated with it. Daniel Croft, you're up.
Hi, so we have the link there is to our handbook page for our team. We have a weekly retrospective that is conducted in the normal GitLab meeting way with asynchronous notes and what went well and what didn't. That's scheduled for every Friday ish. If someone's in a different time zone, sometimes it's in their evening in a different day. But we found that to be really helpful because it helps to address some of the areas of concern that we have, and we can more quickly respond to those. And again, the link there is to the package teams page in the handbook.
Cool. Craig.
Yeah, so the memory team is relatively new. I think we're going on 4 months now. And Camille, the longstanding distinguished engineer on our team, he has been the focus of MRs for the entire team. And now that we're scaling up and increasing our velocity, it's just something that doesn't scale. We can't rely primarily on him for MRs. So we have started actively using the reviewer roulette to spread the wealth, share the knowledge of what the memory team's doing, and free up some of his time so he's not the sole focus of MRs for the team. And we have a couple new team members that have joined this week. We'll join in a couple weeks and one more opening. So it really won't scale for Camille. So we're actively using reviewer roulette now.
That's great to hear, Craig. Just as a special shout out to new engineering managers, one thing that we need to make sure is that we don't have single points of failure. We are definitely growing in size. And this is a good example where we think oftentimes in single point of failure in terms of systems, but we should also be thinking about it in terms of people where, it's great that we have very responsible people, very high performing folks, but we don't want to overburden them. Also, we don't want to be in the situation where for whatever reason, if there's some need for them to work in another part of the organization or some other event that we find ourselves in a position where we don't have other members of the team that can basically support whatever it is they're doing. So please think in terms of that. Clement, you have the next one up?
Yeah, so one of the process for verification is a little bit tough for our team. So right now, whenever you create a merge request that's linked to an issue, it automatically added the close issue as part of the template, and that's kind of the old GitLab workflow. And now that we're moving towards more CD and verification, we've encouraged people to not have that auto close. And so with that, this process has been really tough for our team because it's an extra step that if it automatically closes, you have to reopen it, add the labels, or if or you have to be more cognizant of deleting that part of the template. So that has been a little bit tricky for our team and adding a little bit more overhead than it needs to be.
Cool. And I opened an issue to kind of work on this comment where I currently have myself assigned, but we'll work to figure out who the right people are to get involved in that. Because I think that's an important one for us to get process efficiencies from. Thomas, you round us out for the areas left. You got 3, the trifecta.
Actually, I'll just keep on running through each one of them. Okay, so for the first one, one of the things that was noted is we're not putting enough effort in identifying all issue dependencies, particularly in backlog grooming in advance of starting to execute an iteration. And as a result, we're discovering it too late, where we have prerequisites that are either prioritized later or in later releases, and we're getting surprised by it too often. The corrective action that we're planning to take is to making sure this is part of a definition of done for our grooming exercises, and so that we're and getting that communicated back out appropriately, so that we're reducing the amount of times we're surprised when we get to execution. Second item there is we're not doing enough demos. So we have regular slots for weeklies. We have weekly meetings for the entire secure stage. We also have breakout meetings per group, and those are prime opportunities to do demos synchronously or minimally, record them and provide them available and get feedback on what is available, what is being worked. So these can be as simple as dev in progress demos to just get early feedback. And make sure that we're on the right track as far as what is being expected, or if there's any questions that will impact how quickly we can realize some changes. So we want to make sure that we're not delaying feedback is the primary thing that was called out here. And moving on to the final one. So we have a number of issues. We have a number of issues that to validate them, we need to do cluster testing via GCP. And it has been noted by more than one engineer within Secure at this point that we've exhausted the available IP addresses available to us. So that's caused a lot of additional cycle time to get issues validated before putting them as part of the review process. As a result of that, we're working with our infrastructure colleagues to create test environments to make sure that we can make sure that our velocity is preserved.
Thanks, Thomas. We'll move on to improvements that we want to track through the process. Daniel, you had one down on process that you wanted to talk about.
Yep. So we introduced some issue weighting, lightweight issue weighting process that we are pegging against milestone, start dates and end dates. We started using this already, and I'm hoping this will help us get a better handle on what exactly we're making in terms of our commitments. This comes back to one of the what didn't go well items that I highlighted for our retro. That's already in progress. We're actively going through and weighting the bugs that we had outstanding. We're a relatively new team as well, so there's a lot of existing bugs that we have to get through and make sure they're weighted at some level. And then iterating on that will mean going through our retrospective next time around and evaluating how that weighting is impacting our ability to be more predictable. It's linked there in the document, but we also link on our team page in the handbook for people who would like to check that out.
Thanks, Daniel. I have one down here, which is workflow needs to be evaluated and the verification step considered whether it's a correct sequence of the process. Essentially, this is capturing the comment Clement made earlier about areas to improve. I think we need to evaluate that particular part of the workflow and make sure that it's where we need is, and also that it's not putting an undue burden on any team member associated with it. Mekki had one on efficiency.
Yeah, we need to add some more monitoring to the review app infrastructure. So I think our team will be taking that on, and benefits should be trickling in as we get more eyes on what's going wrong in the dependencies.
Cool. And as you find things wrong, I'm guessing that those are going to flow back to teams. So everybody be on the lookout for those, because those will be critical to us getting back to our target numbers associated with it. So if there's parts of the application that are either systemic or causing these failures, we should be looking at them from that perspective. Cool. And then I have the next one, which is just looking at a general audit around different aspects of this. Like I said, there was a lot of feedback around people either not understanding the process, where we might need to do more effective training, or just around inefficiencies in the process. And it feels like it's a good time for us to basically step back, look across the board and say, okay, do we think these are one-off situations, or do we feel like this is a theme that we need to basically address in some fashion from that perspective? And then the last two that I have are carryovers from last time that both individuals said that they would love to see that talked about at the next retro. So I'm adding those back on from that aspect of it. Are there any additional items that folks feel like we need to create issues for to track? All right, I didn't quite keep it to 25 minutes, but I also got a lag on the front, so I think I'm close from that perspective. But I want to thank everybody for hard work on the retros and making great summary retro, and really appreciate everybody's input and feedback and raising problems that we were having that we can work on fixing. Thank you.